What is the holy grail of your life? That object you know exists but can't seem to find? A few years ago in Mexico I saw this infomercial for an elliptical machine. I don't remember the name, but it only had one pedal instead of two, and everyone looked like they were air humping. It was hysterical, but to this day I haven't been able to find that infomercial anywhere, and my fuzzy tequila memory isn't helping. When I was 8ish, my mom bought me a My Little Pony sister perfume pony for my birthday at Costco. It was so beautiful. My mom is terrible at secrets, so I know she hid it in my dad's closet. I saw her put it up there. A few weeks later, along comes my birthday. No pony. My mom tells me she decided to wait until Christmas. Christmas comes. No pony. My mother admits, very distressed, that she can't find it. I'm like, it's in dad's closet. Nope. We take everything out of the closet. No pony. I'm now in my mid-30s and that pony has taken on a mythical quality. My mom still lives in the same house and will randomly organize closets, etc., taking everything out to try and find it. Recently she was cleaning out the attic and admitted she was still looking for it. It drives us both bonkers and she swears she'll find it someday. Meanwhile, I've tried to locate it on eBay, etc., and can't seem to find the exact on for sale either. It was one of the last G1 My Little Ponies they made. ETA. Spelling correction. S. My grandmother gave me a teddy bear when I was 3, before she died. I had a tough childhood and that bear saw some crap. I named him Brownie Bear and I took him with me to college, when my husband and I got married, and when we moved across the country. He has simply vanished. I've looked everywhere. He knew you were okay now and his job was done. He moved on to help the next child through tough times. This pet store I went to as a child that straight up had a monkey for sale, and live mice that were like 10 cents a piece. Those mice weren't pets. Those mice were food. The USB drive with our wedding pictures. The photographer didn't back up our photos before using the same memory card for another wedding and sent the USB in a very thin envelope that got ripped out in the mail sorting machines. She was able to recover about 1/3 of the pictures since they weren't written over, so our wedding pictures are in a bin full of lost stuff from mail sorting machines. Perhaps since written over if one of the employees later claimed dibs on it. Or, man, that really sucks. We hired a student photographer who somehow managed not to take a single picture of just my husband and me, but that was our own dumb fault for hiring a student. My grandmother used to make crunchy hash browns at Christmas each year until her death. All we know is she used Ripple chips and lots of cheese, and on the top was where most of the chips were all mashed up with cheese and the inside was a lighter texture, even a bit creamy at times but always cheesy. It's been a few years now and nearly a dozen attempts yet nobody can get it. Sounds like the cheesy hash brown casserole my mom makes. Uses frozen hash browns, can of mushroom soup, a cup of sour cream, half cup of milk, and a whole bunch of shredded cheese. She topped it with French's fried onions and cheese. Never had it with chips on top but might have to try that now. This series of fairy tale cassette tapes from the 90s. I've almost given up hope. I can still hear some of the voices and songs. The perfect bag. Big enough for my crap, but not bulky. Must have lots of pockets for organization. Must have external water bottle holder that holds more than a small plastic bottle, but also shouldn't get so heavy it's unusable. I basically want the spell Hermione used to make her bag fit everything but still be nice and dainty. The fricking lime flavored Italian soda at Whole Foods. Whole Foods makes all these different flavors of Italian soda, but none were ever as delicious as the lime flavor. It tasted like the best virgin margarita you've ever had. I purchased one 1.5 liter bottle 2 years ago, drank all of it within a week, and knew instantly that it would soon become a staple on my grocery list. When I returned to the store for my second bottle, they had discontinued it. Tried ordering online, all gone. For the past 2 years every time I go into a Whole Foods I check the soda aisle. While traveling out of state I will even stop at the local Whole Foods just to check. I'm sure after all this time I've exaggerated how good it tasted in my memory, but dang, it upsets me. I know exactly what you are talking about, and it's still available in my Whole Foods. When I was 7, I wrote this story about an invisible wizard that lived underground and fought a Roman centurion that controlled wolves. At the time, I thought it was the best thing put to the page in the history of literature, but now, as I remember odd quirks, like the protagonist googling the MacGuffin, leading the protagonists on their quest, purposely misspelling words, and a henchman letting the protagonist go after succumbing to a prank, I want to find this piece of crap and have a good laugh. Unfortunately, it has seemed to have disappeared off the face of the earth. Hopefully, it's in a recycling plant, allowing the manuscript to be turned into something useful to someone. I was a very angsty, gothic teenage girl who wrote a lot of romance novels that were just a hair better than 50 Shades of Grey. I have a huge stack of notebooks totally full. Every now and then my husband and I will get drunk and do dramatic readings of them and laugh at my 14-year-old self's idea of romance and the few tentative stabs I took at writing erotica. 10/10 good times had by all. When I was a kid, my aunt gave my dad a small tin of homemade spicy Chex Mix for Christmas. I only got a few squares, but I remember it as one of the most delicious snack recipes I've ever had. Now 25 years later, neither my dad nor my aunt know what the heck I'm talking about. Never been able to find it online either. Regular Chex Mix is great, but tastes nothing like what I remember this recipe tasting like. I wish I could find that recipe. Many like 7 or 8 years ago I was a mullet hunter for a while. You hunt them and shot pictures of them. I had quite a collection going in my camera. Then one day I forgot to bring it to work. I was a waiter at the time, and this absolute beauty walked in. A woman, no less. Perfectly permed, stripes cut into one side and stars into the other. Think Vanilla Ice goes patriotic. And at the back, a rat tail. But it wasn't an ordinary rat tail. It was colored. Red, white, and blue. And to top it off, she was wearing a blue jumpsuit with red and white stripes. And this wasn't in July or anything. It was like May or something. And her nails, oh my, longer than was practical and covered in American flags. And sharpened to a point. Absolutely breathtaking description. You have exposed a photograph in my mind, even if no film was exposed that fateful May Day. When I was a kid, I had a Ken doll with a silver metallic body and blue hair. It was by far my favorite toy, and I spent hours putting him in a wedding dress skirt and throwing him off the top of the stairs trying to have the skirt act like a parachute. My sister destroyed him when I was 7, as siblings do. In college I asked my dad if he remembered the doll because I wanted to find another one and it seemed feasible now that the internet was a thing. He told me he was certain it was from the dollar store, so I figured I'd never find it. But after searching on eBay every few months for almost 10 years, one day I somehow found him. It was a limited Mattel brand called Spectra, and his official name is Tom Comet, but I call him Space Ken. He lives on the bookshelf in my living room now. There was a song I heard when visiting Disneyland when I was 4 years old, 1996-ish, 1997-ish. I cannot recall what the song was called, or really anything about the song. It has to be a popular song because I remember it playing a lot throughout my childhood. I can't remember the lyrics, the guitar solo, nothing. I just have a very distinct image in my head of that point in my life. If I ponder on this hard enough I can almost make it out, but I've tried for the last 20 years and can't recall the dang song. I haven't heard the song play on the radio, or anything. 2000. Current time, to even have a chance of looking it up. Part of me thinks it might be a Christian song, but I honestly have no clue. That's my holy grail, to figure out what dang song I listened to that day. When I was young, I had a Creme, the armpit monster, toy from Real Monsters. It actually smelled too. One day it disappeared. Mom claims to not know what happened to it. Mom claims to not know what happened to it. An obvious attempt of deceit. When I would spend time with my grandma, she would talk at times about a pair of Royal Doulton ceramic dolls that she had bought for my mom and my aunt, whom they shared names with. She was thoroughly convinced that the movers who moved her into her apartment either took them or lost them. Her apartment was rather small and most of her belongings were in boxes, but she insisted that she had searched for them, but they could be sealed in a box in her closet. My grandmother died of pneumonia in August 2015. Everyone, my family and my aunt's family, was rather disheartened during the week that we spent cleaning out her apartment. We started less than 24 hours after she was declared legally dead. It took a week to clean out everything. My mother was getting more and more distressed as we organized. She desperately wanted to find those dolls. They weren't in either closet, nor were they anywhere else in the bedroom or storage. It broke my heart seeing my mom like that. We were almost done. There was a lover seat next to a window where my grandmother would sit to smoke, an ashtray sitting on top of 2 boxes filled with packing paper wrapped knickknacks. By this point my mother and aunt had all but given up on finding the dolls. They were in the last box, resting on top of it. I cannot underestimate the joy in my mother as she broke into tears at the sight of this ceramic doll in her yellow dress, introducing her to my brothers and cousins like an old friend she hadn't seen in ages. These dolls that had hauntedly rested at the back of my grandmother's mind, that she had believed lost or stolen, her dying gift to her 2 daughters, were sitting in that corner, right under her arm every time she had a smoke. We found her holy grail. It must have been such a beautiful moment, finding those dolls. My friend had a tiny Pachinko machine her dad has brought her back from Japan. I'm not sure if it had batteries or was totally manual, but it was the cutest thing and we played with it for hours. Have never been able to find it. My family had one too. All the lights and bells were awesome. My dad told us we had to tell Ichiban when we did well. Abercrombie & Fitch used to make unstructured, fitted, low-profile hats when I was young. They are the only fitted hats that don't look completely ridiculous on my head. My current and last one is about 18 years old now, so it's ratty. I found one manufacturer that claims to make a hat with these specs. I ordered it, and of course it's that flex fit nonsense. I do not want elastic. Ugh. I work for a company that makes hats. If you PM me a picture, I might be able to help. Every year for the past 5 years, I get a bag of Cadbury Creme eggs a month before Easter, so I can, well, eat them. This year, they are nowhere to be found. I've looked everywhere. It's a sad life. Only saw the mini ones in my local Poundland, if you are a UK resident. The name of a kids TV show I watched back in the 90s, Ontario, Canada, maybe on TVO. It was animated. I remember what I think was the intro. There was a spider in the top corner of the room, singing. There were maybe a couple kids in the room and they listened to stories told by the spider, maybe. The spider sang a song. Cuckoo, cuckoo, here I am, but you cannot see me. That's all I remember. The final episode of the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon show from the 80s. The company claims it was never made. It was recalled as there were plans for another series, and no doubt, more toy sales, and the official line is that it exists in script form only, but it was actually accidentally broadcast once. I'd like to see it again to prove I'm not insane. Venger is Dungeon Master's son, by the way. A book I read as a teenager. It was low fantasy setting. Protagonist was a noble from a minor family, took part in an invasion of a new land, indentured himself to another nobleman because he was poor. At the end there was a boat race to decide who got a big parcel of land and the protagonist was rowing for his master. Master ordered him to chop his hand off and frick it on shore to win the race by a few lengths. The king turns around and says nah. Protagonist landed first so he gets the land. They were like Norman knights crossed with Mongols or something. Horse-based culture, mounted archers, lances, but all divided into medieval style noble families' houses. I've asked everywhere and no one can ever help. For the record, it's not Horse Lords in the Forgotten Realms series. Something about the Irish Red Hand of Ulster. 4 denominations of metalwood tokens created by my hometown in 1933 when the only bank in town closed. The city needed money for business to continue, so they used a newspaper press to mint discs of wood. They worked really well, and not everyone wanted to return them when the bank reopened, so the town government said that anytime people want to exchange them for real money, they will do it. Because of that, they are still considered legal tender in the town. There were 2 sets made with 5 denominations each, and I have 6 of the 10. I have only ever seen one of the other 4, and I couldn't get it. Back in 1988 I caught a bit of a show on HBO or some other pay cable station. It was called Bette Midler's Mondo Biondo. It was a clip show with several short film sketches. One of them was this soundscape piece of walking through an ice house where workers were breaking ice with picks, and it had this rhythm to it. It was mesmerizing. Haven't been able to find it since. My grandmother used to make roast potatoes for Sunday lunch, which were divine. Somehow, the bottoms of the potato were thick and crunchy, presumably with oil, but I have been unable to recreate the texture in 20 years of experimentation. I cooked professionally for a while and never found the solution there either. There's a recipe on Serious Eats which I tried that reminds me of that. They boil the potatoes first before baking them in oil to get the thicker layer on the outside. A sweet woman's perfume that reminds me of my childhood. Sad enough, we don't have online smells yet, so there's no point searching. Go to a classic concert and sniff in every woman's neck. If you notice the right smell, just ask before you be thrown out. A candy that was in the shape of bones and they were all colorful and sold in a little plastic dog with a clear belly. I have now started to think I just made them up. The candy exists. I don't remember it being in a dog. The perfect insole. I had them once. Bought them at a kiosk in a mall. There was no foam or gel softness, just air bubbles, about the size of bubble wrap maybe, but flatter and spaced further apart. I can't find anything comparable now. I need them. Go to the Walking Company shoe store and have them analyze your feet for orthotic inserts. They aren't squishy or jelly or foamy. There was this stuffed bunny I had as a kid that I just loved to play with. One day, I was tossing it up in my room and catching it, and it went and fell on the concrete shelf at the top of the wall. I couldn't look for it and I asked my mum. She couldn't find it anywhere. I was about 7 then. When we were moving out of the house, I swear I saw it being packed. So I thought, well, I'll just take it when we reopen the boxes. I marked the box too. After moving, I opened the box but it wasn't inside. I thought I just lost it or someone stole it. I was 10 then. Years later when I was 15, we had a few family friends come home and there was a kid who was 7. I was in my room like the antisocial I was and didn't bother playing with the kid. Anyway, the next time the kid came over, she kept shuffling through the house weirdly. When asked why, she said she couldn't find the bunny she was playing with the last time. I searched the entire house. Again, couldn't find it. Needless to say, I'm waiting for it to surface again. So my sister used to have these little bronze monkeys. 3 of them together doing the speak no evil, see no evil, hear no evil thing with tiny rubies for eyes. After she died I carried them with me in her memory. Unfortunately, after getting wounded in Iraq they cut parts of my uniform off. And somehow in the confusion the monkeys were lost. My mother tried to replace them, but she can never find the same ones again. And even if she did it wouldn't be the same. I think she just likes the search. Sucks though. There was a post on Reddit about a young woman who had a necklace or bracelet break by a random pool, and in that moment, she saw her life's whole trajectory change. She stopped hanging out with the wrong people and turned things around. There was a photo of the necklace, and it was poignant and gave me a feeling of vague familiarity. I hope she's still doing well. Post this on Artapofmatong, they are freaking awesome at finding this stuff. About 2-3 years ago, Krispy Kreme made red velvet crullers and I have been on the hunt to find them again ever since. Those donuts were the reason my roommates and I bonded so well because of how much we loved them, and now we will probably never get to enjoy them again. There's a restaurant in western Montana someplace with chili I would kill for. Encountered it as a kid and don't know where it was. I've searched for it ever since. For me, it's not really an object but a goal. To qualify for the Boston Marathon, which requires you to run at least a marathon time of 3 hours 5 minutes. My current PR is 3:37. That 32 minutes gap is huge. I am nowhere near that goal right now, and may never get there, but it's something I'm striving for now that I'm beginning to take running more seriously. That's a great goal. I'm guessing that if you're running at 3:37 you don't need any of the advice I could give, so I'll just be here cheering you on. Watermelon Gatorade. About 6 years ago when my GF was pregnant we came upon it in a store and gave it a try. Best freaking thing ever. We only had it a few more times before they disappeared from the shelves. Never seen it since. Can't find it online. Not the same thing at all, but my favorite drink when I'm sick is simply watermelon and ice blended in a blender. Makes a really nice slushy when it's otherwise hard to eat food. You guys might enjoy it. A good open world game that I can play for more than 30 minutes without getting bored. A Christmas movie I watched as a child that no one else seems to remember. The only part I can recall is the main character being in a cave and having to choose the left or right path, and when it finally went down one there was something evil and a penguin playing the piano. I got you. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer the movie, 1998. My grandfather made homemade cough syrup. It was honey and some type of herbs and probably alcohol. It was delicious and killed a cough in its tracks. No one remembers what the recipe was and he died when I was 9, so that recipe is long gone. Ah, the flaming Homer. The smell of my ex-wife. I loved the smell of her hair and her neck when she came home. She would be all tired and irritable after a long day and I had to give her some space. Her smell in the morning would drive me insane. She is a veritable pheromone fountain. She finally unchained my biochemically bound heart, but like an addict I still get a large lump in my throat when I think of her. It must have been suffocating for her. The smell of my ex is my holy grail of smell. A strategy game for PC from around 20 years ago that was very much like Age of Empires. But not it. You could choose to play as Christians sending out a crusade, Muslim nations and send out dudes on a jihad, etc. You would send emissaries and spies to scout and sound out other kings' kingdoms and kill off kings, etc. You would give out directions to control any battle like in Rome. Total war. Also not it. Been looking for about 7 years and haven't found it yet. The movie score to The Road to El Dorado in lossless quality, not the officially released score by Elton John, but the actual soundtrack and orchestral score by Hans Zimmer and John Powell. Bro, I've looked everywhere. The released CD doesn't even have the movie versions of the songs, just the weirdly different Elton John versions. So frustrating. I believe the last few tracks of the CD have some of the Hans Zimmer score, but dang is it frustrating. Spent exactly 30 years looking for the exact same album as a cassette I once owned, and wore out. The album was a hardcore punk compilation called The Future Looks Bright. Not a bad song on the entire cassette. There was only 500 made to be distributed to college radio stations that played that genre. Anyhow, thanks to the internet and stupid records, for $132 I acquired my holy grail. Worth every cent. My Nirvana CD that I lost when I was 14. I know it's in the house somewhere. I don't even need it anymore. Spotify has me covered. But still. I collect and restore old computers as a hobby, but due to people recycling them plus living in the UK there's a few models I'd love to have but can't find. Old Apple computers seem to be the hardest to find, especially the Apple II family and the compact Macintosh family. Went to a rave once and after these people were just handing out random mixtapes. This one was called Chocolate Taco and it's the best CD one ever listened to. I used to jam like heck. Someone broke into my car in high school and stole all my CDs. No idea who made that music, don't remember any titles. Just remember jamming out. The year was 1968. We were on recon in a steaming Mekong Delta. An overheated private removed his flak jacket, revealing a t-shirt with an iron-on sporting the mad slogan "Up with miniskirts." Well, we all had a good laugh, even though I didn't quite understand it, but our momentary lapse of concentration allowed Charlie to get the drop on us. I spent the next 3 years in a POW camp, forced to subsist on a thin stew of fish, vegetables, prawns, coconut milk, and 4 kinds of rice. I came close to madness trying to find it here in the States, but they just can't get the spices right. I want a spin-off show that follows Skinner around trying to find the recipe. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.